Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Urban Air Mobility Challenge informational webinar. My name is Laura Murphy, and I am your MC for the hour. So today we're going to explore some of the ins and outs of the challenge itself, and we're also going to learn more about our challenge partner, the Vertical Lift Consortium. So just to go over a little housekeeping, if you could just remain on mute throughout the hour, and also if you could type any questions you have in the questions box on the GoToWebinar control panel. At the end of the call, our panelists are going to get to as many of those as we can, and if we aren't able to answer something, we'll address it with you after the fact. So you're sure to get any questions that you ask answered before it's all said and done and before you submit your entry to the challenge. So just to give you a couple of introductions, joining me today is Jennifer Rocha. She's one of our challenge administrators, and she's also the Vice President of Strategic Partnerships for TechConnect, which is a division of Advanced Technology International. And she's going to speak about the ins and outs of the challenge, the operations, how you can apply, what it means to apply, how you can submit something strong that our judges want to see. And we're also joined by Nick Lapos, who is a Senior Technical Fellow of Advanced Technology at Sikorsky, never gonna be able to get that, aircraft. And he's also the Vertical Lift Consortium Chair, which I think will interest those who are interested in membership. So without further ado, I would like to pass the mic to Jen, and she is going to kick things off today.
Great, thank you, Laura, and thank you everyone for joining this very exciting challenge that we are pleased to offer this September. As Laura mentioned, my name is Jennifer Rocha. I'm VP of Strategic Partnerships, and one of the many great things of my job is I get to work with fantastic people, and we get to put together very interesting challenges for our innovation community. So today we are going to talk about the pitch program that we will be offering this September and a $50,000 prize pool. So quick overview, our Urban Air Mobility Challenge is an acceleration program which is sponsored by the Vertical Lift Consortium, and you will hear more about that after my presentation. The VLC is the nation's leading organization rapidly transitioning innovative aviation technologies for the US government and the DoD. So what's really great about this challenge is that all qualified participants have an opportunity to engage with the VLC and their partners, and there are also membership opportunities available. And let's not forget, you are also competing for the $50K prize package, which we are planning to give out $5,000, $10,000 awards at the challenge later this year. The challenge topics that you see on my screen, these are certainly quite broad, and the VLC presentation will go into a deeper dive in terms of some specific areas of interest and technology areas that they do have. But these are kind of the 5 main challenge topics that certainly you should keep in the back of your mind as you listen to this webinar and as you prepare your technology submission for this Urban Air Mobility Challenge. So how it works. The deadline to submit your technology is June 30th. So that is coming up. You do have a few weeks to certainly think about what you would like to submit. You're welcome to submit more than one technology from your organization, although we certainly strongly recommend that you kind of submit technologies that are patent protected, that are ideally at a TRL 3 or 4 or higher. And dual use solutions for both civilian and national security applications are really ideal entrants for this challenge. Once our review committee takes a look at all the submissions, the top ranked submissions, who we call our finalists, will be invited to pitch in person at the one-day Urban Air Mobility Challenge. I apologize, we do not have a specific date yet, so we are currently asking folks to please block out September 26th through the 28th. And this is when the one-day challenge will take place. And so what's really cool is on site, it's our mini version of a Shark Tank. So all the finalists will be given a certain amount of time to pitch their technology, and then we will pivot to an on-site review panel. And this review panel will consist of leadership from the VLC, government, military, and industry. So it's a really dynamic format and something that we, the TechConnect division, have just over a decade of experience in running these types of challenges, which are made even more fantastic by ATI Consortia, as well as the opportunity to offer a prize distribution package to the top ranked innovators. Now, if you are not selected for the challenge, all our submissions are in a qualifying process for membership consideration, and this would be for new members only. And there's also multiple engagement opportunities with the VLC. Conference opportunities are also available at a discounted rate, and that information will be disseminated after we decide who the finalists are. So to build on that last bullet, when I mentioned conference opportunities, the Urban Air Mobility Challenge is embedded within our Defense TechConnect Summit. So we are entering I believe it's our 8th year in running the Defense TechConnect Conference, which is a fantastic group of everyone that you would see within the defense innovation ecosystem, from academia to service components, federal agencies, private industry, all focused on defense innovation for national security and the warfighter. We also have several other co-located events taking place during those same dates, the end of September. Our SBI, our STTR Fall Innovation Conference, those are all the federal agencies that help distribute over $4 billion a year to promising US-based startups. We have our Operational Energy and Logistics Summit, and the OENLs is run in coordination with Indo-Pacific Command, Central Command, and Op Energy Navy. And there's certainly a lot of overlap with the Urban Air Mobility Challenge. You think about communications, logistics, vehicle management. There's a lot of OENLS overlap there. We're also co-located with the Smart Cities Connect Conference and Resilience Week, which is focused on energy and security and is run by Idaho National Lab. So in addition to challenge, this is a really fantastic opportunity for you to take advantage of all the resources and know-how that VLC has, but also these co-located events and the wide community that we're able to bring together for this challenge to attend it. So important dates and deadlines. As I mentioned before in prior slides, Thursday, June 30th is the deadline. Our plan that we are tracking now is to notify all submitters by the week of July 25th. We then give our finalists, as well as those that were not selected, if they would like to participate in other parts of the program, a registration deadline of the week of August 15th. This allows us time to not only promote your participation, but also promote the Urban Air Mobility Challenge to our global database of innovators from around the world. So this gives us an opportunity to do that for you. And as I mentioned before, this will be an in-person Urban Air Mobility Challenge event on one of those dates in September over at the Gaylord National Harbor in Maryland, which is a fantastic property, and it's approximately 15 minutes outside of the DMV. So as one would suspect, we get fantastic representation from not only all the large companies in the area, but particularly the DoD components and federal agencies who are always able to join us each year in good numbers. So with that, certainly I know we are saving time at the end for facilitated Q&A, but here is my contact information as well as a link to the Air Mobility Challenge. And I look forward to hearing more about our partner VLC and him providing more experience and background than I can on those subjects, and the Q&A that will immediately follow. So Laura, back over to you, please.
Okay, thank you so much, Jen. I really appreciate it. I'm gonna give Nick our presenter role here. Audience members, please don't forget to enter any questions you have in the questions tab in the control panel. So we will get to those. Go ahead and place hold anything that you are wondering about so that we can be sure to get to it later. And next, Nick is going to tell us about the Vertical Lift Consortium and their interest in you as innovators in the challenge and as you submit. So Nick, I'll pass it over to you.
Thank you, Laura. And I hope everyone can hear me well. I'm going to speak for about 10 or 15 minutes on just what is the VLC, what's the charter we have, what are the challenges we have, and how does that fit into this program that we're talking about for trying to find new technologies for our customer. The VLC's mission is to work collaboratively with the U.S. government, and that is to help vertical lift technologies get introduced to the warfighter and to have them use unconventional contracting means so that they are more quickly and more easily developed and presented to the warfighter. As a general overview, we were formed in 2010 so we can engage in OTA agreements with our members. And what the OTA really means is that all of our members in the VLC, there are over 200 now, representing OEMs and academia and lots of small R&D outfits, folks who are the doers within our industry, a real cross-section of the entire industry. They're all pre-signed so that most of the boilerplate for contracting has already been executed. And then therefore, any ideas that pass back and forth would involve producing just those CLINs for the particular activities in mind. Also, the OTA is a pre-competitive environment, so there's much more open communication available between all the participants and the government. It gives us a great deal of freedom in terms of passing information or ideas, and it allows the entities within the consortium, especially the small non-traditional entities, to pass their ideas up into the government and let them understand what's available. And we, as the VLC, serve as a kind of a post office to pass the information back and forth, and to do it much more freely than conventional procurement methods would allow. It also means, too, that they can be more free form, that the government can be given ideas and influence the requirements in that way, in a way that's very much different than traditional ways. The OTA system has been worked for a number of years and is especially important for DoD in the software and hardware end for computing. Changes occurring so rapidly, and quite frankly, it's so esoteric and so difficult for particular procurement folks to understand that the industry can represent to the government what can be done and let the government understand whether that's where they want to go. So we're doing the same thing here as well. Please note too that the last slide bullet is very important. The VLC provides to smaller members that don't have accounting systems and maybe not a great deal of experience in government contracting, can provide good compliant contracting accounting systems and a structure for contracts, so that there is much greater compliance and much less fear of not having appropriate paperwork and coverage. It is a very important point for us that in fact we provide those services as part of the membership fees, so that small entities don't have to have accounting departments. It can be surprisingly important. Now, we also work, the VLC is part of the AMTC, and AMTC OTA is a large OTA, so there's a great deal of contracting power in that, and that's part of what we're trying to harness here. The OTA approach provides the government with a way to get the missions done in a challenging environment. If you think about changes occurring rapidly, and we have small entities that non-traditional in the consortium that have great ideas, and how do those ideas get presented? We are capable of providing that kind of stuff to the government, and also to provide technical knowledge and understanding. Well, it is entirely possible to have the entire VLC present to the government a series of data on what's going on, and I think what we're talking about in September is something similar to that. What we're doing is we're casting a net now for the eVTOL world to ask those folks who are currently mostly thinking in terms of civil, what is available for military. And there are missions and mission elements that might very well be important that could be provided to our customer base in the government that can have dual use capabilities and provide a nice broad base for contracting with the government, which could help a civil enterprise out by increasing their marketing base. What do we do is information sharing, broad spectrum of industry and academic interests. Our membership, and I'll go through that a little bit, is a broad spectrum of our industry to help shape the future vertical lift strategy, because these kinds of meetings, like we're talking about now, give the government a chance to understand what is the realm of the possible, and from that might be some new projects and new understandings. We have intellectual capital that's available, and to the extent that we protect it very much, please note that when Laura talked about passing the submittals, and we look for patent protected information. So we have to be very careful that we're going to control and understand the IP of our members. Everything I'm talking about with regard to open discussions still contains with it all those elements of IP protection for our members, so that we allow them to maintain their business acumen in spite of the fact that there's open communication. We can harvest concepts and contracts in a non-traditional way. There is a white paper format. You'll know more about that as we get into things that in fact allows our members to write white papers to answer the customer's questions about how to do things. And those white papers are passed through, but not shared by the consortium overall. So the individuals who write them will know that their customer reads them, but no one else is exposed to them. And we enable open dialogue about such things as commonality and MOSA architectures and standards. We can help set those standards. And we can maintain all this with the competitive space still available to us. Who is the VLC? Let me say first off that while this is our current membership, we increase our membership by probably about 5 entities a month now as contracting passes through the OTA and people begin to realize the power and capability and speed that the OTA provides. So while we have 266 members today, it is entirely possible that we'll grow that by a number that could be as much as 100 per year, depending on what the business is available. And please note that we have large OEMs, suppliers, other entities, VTOL companies, and academia. The vertical lift centers of excellence are part of the VLC. And what I must point out is that all this membership, because our information is passed back and forth, they represent potential partners for programs. So it's entirely possible for a small non-traditional to partner with an academic institution and propose something. And they'll have the power then not only of having the academics who have a great deal of theoretical understanding of what's going on to help bolster the points that a small company has, but also those academics provide grad students at very nice rates that are available for performing some of the tasks involved. And everyone benefits. We benefit in the industry because those grad students who do the work today become future employees and future engineers for the entire industry later in the future. So, and the question is, how do you become a member? And the answer is, you simply apply. At the end of this, you'll have the contact information. The application for membership has on it some information about financials and about the company's history. And the board has to pass judgment on whether a given entity can be made a member. But quite frankly, we have never turned a member down. Our screening for members is only in terms of whether the membership has the track record and integrity that are appropriate for our customer. And as I said, that we've never had an opportunity to say no to anyone, nor do we want to, because the broader our base is here, the more likely we are to satisfy our customer with what they're looking for. Our annual membership, you can see, is up past 260 now, and we think we're growing even more. And I must say this, for those people that we're talking to now who have ideas and capabilities, don't hesitate to reach out and explore whether we are something you'd be interested in. The membership dues are quite low for any commercial entity. It's just a few $100s a year, but it's just enough to make sure that there's some earnest money laid down on the table. So there's our information. I think that I'll leave to any questions that we have, but I must point out that part of what we're looking for here is to take the civil eVTOL world and see whether there are military applications for those eVTOL concepts. I think it would take nothing more than just a peruse through YouTube and take a look at what's happening in the Ukraine to understand what drones are doing and other platforms like that to change modern warfare in amazing ways. And we see, for example, for this challenge, there may be the idea of automated medevac capabilities that create a tier underneath the medical evacuation helicopter system, which is so good in the military today. But maybe there are vertical lift machines that can do medevac on a squad level that would allow that squad to have an automated machine come pick up a casualty and bring that casualty immediately back for medical attention in ways that we can only just now imagine. Where civil entities are thinking about deliveries of medicines and police and fire. Maybe we're talking about the deliveries of fire support for local teams, that a team could have a reconnaissance drone or a fire support drone that was controlled by the team leader on the field, and that NCO or officer would have the necessary equipment to be able to direct the fires and direct the reconnaissance and help increase the capabilities of teams on the ground. And then it also could very well be that there are machines that are smaller than helicopters, but they could move a 2 or 3 person fire team as part of the tactical movement of the unit, and would bypass the conventional helicopter system and provide that capability at very much quicker and more flexible for the ground troops. And I'm a former cavalry officer, and I could picture how this could be used. But I'll bet that in our membership and in the people that are out there today listening to this, there are folks who could picture other things that I've missed entirely that would be extremely important and might be valuable to our warfighters. So I invite you to bring those ideas along and put them to use. This is the contact information, vlc@ati.org. ATI is the organization, professional organization, that has the necessary contracts and accounting and other professional information, including what these wonderful women are providing for us today, which is the ability for these deeply technical questions and issues to be discussed in an open format. And we have some professionals at ATI that are capable of providing that kind of open exchange and marketplace for ideas. So I'll get off the stage now and hand it back over to Laura.
Great. All right. Thank you, Nick. I appreciate that. Let me see. Okay. So we will all jump back now to say hello to you on video, and we're going to just take some questions. So if you have questions, go ahead and enter them. Just for additional clarification, Nick, looking at the Vertical Lift Consortium and also the challenge, are there areas you can think of that are out of scope? So when we think about urban air mobility, is there anything too big or too small in scope that you think doesn't really make sense? In other words, are component solutions relevant? How far into the aviation space are we looking?
You know, I'm going to say this, because it's so widely open now and we're growing so rapidly, I'd much rather have ideas be laid out and decide they're out of scope when you take a look at them than now present any sweeping judgments. I think the answer is no. If I were to look at, for example, some of the stuff that the Vert and Joby and the others are producing as air vehicles, the entire vehicle itself is probably in scope for what we're talking about. And I'll guarantee you that there are ways to change the paint job on one of those and put it to great use in the modern military. So no, I would say right now, don't truncate your thinking on the basis of what you imagine the customer doesn't want. Let's let them be the ones to decide.
All right, great. And for membership itself, you obviously have lots and lots of different types of members. What are the qualifying requirements to become a member? Is there any hurdles to jump that early stage or otherwise companies would need to know?
It's kind of interesting that we've had members that were individuals with great ideas. We had members that had a patent for a particular concept for vertical lift, and armed with that patent, they were members for several years. And we found them to be very strong members and very capable. They later were subsumed into another organization because that patent was a powerful one. But so the answer is that it's basically someone who wants to do business with the government, has concepts or track record, people who have software for maintenance, people who have the ability to do the right processes for materials that are important for a manufacturing process. It could be anywhere along the chain, if you picture the technological chain, from gear hardening on up to whole air vehicles. And so the answer is it's almost anyone in the vertical lift space that has a space with us. The membership right now is members' dues are $500 a year. So if anyone's enough to be somewhat commercial and capable, we don't think that's very much of a barrier at all to membership. And what that does then is it gives you the chance to pass your ideas along and also to collaborate with other members, because it's entirely possible somebody may have an idea that contributes overall, and then when that idea contributes, combined with other sets of ideas, 3 or 4 members could form a collaboration that does then have a very attractive contract for the government. I'd also point out too that it's up to the government to figure out what they want to do. And so people may have an idea that all it would take, we have some members who sell software for maintenance tracking and for reliability tracking, and they're very attractive to our government customer. So I would suggest that people just take the flyer and see what happens.
Okay, so I guess on that, I've got a couple more questions about membership in general. So one person asks about, let's say you're a TRL 5 level company. What kind of value would membership have for you? In other words, beyond the collaboration aspects, what is the government looking for? Is that something that you feel that there are contracts and projects on which someone at that development level would be able to participate and engage?
Yeah, I would say that certainly the idea of doing research work at TRL 2, 3, 4, that gets to be a bit more traditional R&D work. But by the time you get up to TRL 5 or 6, those are places where you're beginning to be able to see the end users' results. And so I would suggest that those folks might find it very attractive to be here. It is not automatic that you need to be TRL 7 in order to be attractive. That I think that there are depending on the future that your concepts hold and the promise that it holds, I think the TRL 5 is a great place to start. And as I mentioned earlier, just let's make sure that the individual that has it protected. And then as it's protected because it's patented, then and of course, even patent is first to file. So if you file, you probably have some degree of protection as well. I'd leave it up to the individual and their lawyer friends to decide whether it was worthwhile pitching that in. But I wouldn't wait for TRL 7 or 8 to throw my hat in the ring on this world. So things are happening very quickly.
Great. So speaking of one of the values of membership, are there networking opportunities between members? I know you mentioned a little bit about collaboration, but how do members get to know one another?
Well, everything's open, and our membership lists are published, and the skills are published. In fact, the ATI keeps a rather elaborate database so that you do keyword searches to find folks who do things. So you may have some particular piece of the pie, and someone else has the other pieces of the pie. You can find them, and there's as open as any businesses for a business-to-business relationship to contact them. It also is true that we'll have meetings with the government, and often we're all in the meeting together, and you hear someone speak, and you get the cut of their jib and say, that man or that woman that's somebody that we need to work with. And so it is a networking opportunity, and I picture the event in September is going to be like that. And how many times do you find yourself connected to somebody who says the right things and has the right attitude? That means that that's somebody you want to collaborate with. It's very conceivable that you can end up becoming business partners, or that it's not just business to business, that you may collaborate and form a single entity that now adds a product or a service to the government.
All right, great, thank you. Jen, this one's for you. Frederick asks, can live demonstrations be included for the challenge day? And Frederick, you may need to clarify that a bit more.
Yeah.
Jen, can you?
I was getting a little nervous, but when I hear,
Yeah. I mean,
if you're ready, we're ready. It depends on what. If you could teleport people to across a river and put them ready to work, then
put me in
bring
Tahiti.
live
We can
demonstration.
give that a shot, but
Yes. Vote on where that's going to be located. But I guess possibly a component solution, or possibly other elements like maybe bringing in a video or something. Are you able to speak to that potential?
yeah, so certainly when we've had prior pitch programs, someone may bring a prototype. Now, let's say it could be an engine component, or it could be a short video to show how something works. Certainly within the challenge program, we will also have a rather large exhibit hall, not just for the Urban Air Mobility Challenge, but also as the other co-located events I just spoke about. So certainly this innovator may want to submit to the challenge, and let's say they're selected to be a finalist, they may want to purchase some real estate on the floor, which gives them more flexibility to be able to do either a live demo or bring in some components that may not necessarily either fit within the scope of the challenge, because it is a rather rapid fire type of format within the confines of a session. But certainly we have some flexibility in other parts of the program, and we're certainly happy to explore that with that person.
Okay, great.
Let me speak to that too, if I can. In fact, what you'll find is what we're offering is the opportunity that is far beyond a page in a magazine for an ad. That if you think about having a piece of the hall and you have a device or a capability, and you can present the data in a way that catches the eye. And I think that data is important. Whether you brought a new gearbox or whether you brought the data for the gearbox, at least to have a display and the capability of showing a video and discussing with knowledgeable customer individuals what you've done is very important. Think of this as advertisement squared, that you've got their attention, They came to the hall because they wanted to see what's going on. You've got some, I always know this, if you have something interesting to show, people are going to mob around it. And that's part of what we provide. The VLC's purpose is to be that, that entity that allows individuals with small resources the ability to get themselves in front of the customer.
Great. And Frederick did clarify a little bit to say that it was a solution similar to what Nick was referring to taking place in Ukraine, and he was looking for an outdoor demonstration. So that is something that would be really, really cool. It couldn't be part of the pitch, but we could, if you have something that you want to showcase, it's possible we can work with you as part of the expo. They have higher ceilings, but also, you know, possibly outdoor.
Outside. They have a parking lot too, and let me offer this up. It's entirely possible, but we can't promise that because, quite frankly, the ideas for approval for these ideas has to go through you. That we're not going to be able to be responsible for understanding the licensing of and the conduct of air vehicles or whatever. You would do that. But would we entertain the idea that you would have external space and the ability to invite customers? I think the answer is yes. We do it on a case-by-case basis, but our job is to be your representative. So the answer is a generally qualified yes, that we would be glad to stretch to be sure you got to show your wares. I personally think that's one of the strengths we have as an organization. If we had 10 such entities who wanted to demonstrate to the customer in the parking lot, that is a home run.
Yeah, I think it'd be really cool if there was a way to work with you on that. For the pitch itself, and just Jen, I'll maybe have you clarify how do you get to each stage, but for the pitch itself, we'd probably need a video, you're time constrained. So maybe Jen, can you speak to how do you get to become a finalist, and then how do you get on that stage? Like, what are the different phases you have to pass through?
Sure. So certainly, when you go to our event page, and I suspect Laura will also circulate this post-webinar, it's a one-page innovation submission form. So I always put the caveat, don't put any confidential information in there, nothing proprietary. This is simply a one-page technology overview that allows our review committee to make an assessment of saying, okay, based on our review committee and how we rank all the submissions, and certainly we review this as well with the VLC, and we figure out, okay, what are the top percentage that we would like to invite on site to become a finalist. So in that end of July timeframe, you would get a notification from us that you were selected as a finalist, and typically the pitch on site is relatively short. It's typically no more than 5 minutes. So really look at this as your 5-minute infomercial. You know, certainly some folks do show a video. I would say it's definitely less than a minute because you are taking time away from your overall presentation. But certainly between, you know, once you're selected as a finalist, we certainly do wonderful promotion and marketing of you. We have web pages where we'll have a dedicated quad chart. You can put information there. And then once you get on site, you know, certainly we'll build out the day where, based on what you submit and what bucket it falls into, we kind of group similar industrial areas together. So that allows for our review panels to make, you know, kind of like, you know, it helps them with scoring, it helps them with evaluating. So certainly think about not only if you are selected for a finalist, what you will focus on in those 5 minutes, then you can also look at, you know, the other folks that are presenting as finalists and see what they are doing as well in terms of what technologies they will be pitching. But as Nick and Laura were talking about as well, being within the Gaylord, being with co-located events, you can think about other potential ways that you want to enhance your visibility at the overall conference. It may be an outdoor demo opportunity. It may be an exhibit booth. It may be a way for you to, even if you just participated as a finalist and were able to kind of have those natural collisions with folks like Nick and Laura and everyone else that's going to be in the room, that would certainly be of high benefit to you. And for those that are not selected as a finalist within the defense program, we have other pitch programs that will run, not with a prize challenge associated with it, but you would qualify to potentially, if you wanted to do that, you could do that for a reduced rate. So you would still have exposure to the community, you could still check out the challenges, and you could pitch within a defense program, not for prize money, but still kind of get that exposure as I was speaking about earlier.
I always say money is great, but have you tried meeting the people in the room? Because the prize money is really just the beginning. And I know Nick spoke about contracting authority. It's a really powerful group. And as well, the other judges beyond the Vertical Lift Consortium will be will be, heavy hitters and decision makers in their own right. So lots of great value there. That's a good point, Jen. I have another question related to scope. So is this challenge limited to urban mobility, or any VTOL solution might apply?
I'll answer that one.
Yes,
Pitch it
please,
forward.
Nick.
Any VTOL solution. The idea that urban air mobility or eVTOL represents one of the enormous fields that's producing technologies is important, but that we're not restricting this at all. If you have a VTOL, because we're vertical lift, if you have a VTOL solution of some kind or something that aids the VTOL solutions, please pitch it forward.
And another question about scope. Sergio asks, is the challenge only around technology, or are services also welcome? So same thing, all are welcome.
Services. Yeah,
Great.
if you think of all of our customer base, the warfighter and the warfighter's systems, anywhere you touch that system, I don't care if it's the paint, the service of the device, the logistics problems in the logistic chain. I mean, I could go on and on, but all I'm doing is when I do this, I'm channeling. The answer is if what you have makes things better for our customer, come forward.
Great. Shannon asked a question, which I'm hoping you will understand, Nick, which says, we're excited to apply, but the JC requirement is holding us up. We're new and trying to figure out whether or where our technology falls under ITAR or EAR.
Yes.
Can we get help with that?
And those are, and the trick there would be to dialogue that. I would suggest that the folks at ATI you deal with, Paul Dudley and his people, would be very effective for discussing those things. And you can discuss with them on a non-competitive basis. ATI basically has the ability, if necessary, to protect all the things you're talking about. They don't spread it to other members of the VLC. So my suggestion is almost everything we do has ITAR relationships associated with it, virtually everything. And so if you have, and we would make sure that the group had US persons and that it was part of what was going on. That in fact, that's one of the complications we have, is how do we make sure that the folks in the room are US persons? I'm getting nods because I think you folks understand what we're talking about directly. In the past, we've had people carded at the door to make sure that they met it and sign statements to say so. And so we'll do that as well. Our job at the VLC is to protect the laws and rules that we operate under. And ITAR is probably the most universal and sweeping of them all. So my belief is that I think we're in pretty good shape that way, if you're in good shape that way.
Great.
And don't hesitate to ask follow-up on that, please.
Okay, great. Are you able to speak to, I know you spoke about the type of technology in terms of stage of development, type of organization. What about the breakdown of technologies? Is there a certain area where you see more focus within the VLC, or are there some areas, in some areas that you're trying to build up more membership, or is it pretty even across the air mobility space?
Yeah, I would suggest that it's more driven by what our customer values than anything else. And so if you, I'm going to actually answer it. It's sort of almost platitudinous, and forgive me for that. But it is, if you can help our customer do what they're doing, then keep on moving forward. It costs very little to do this. We're not talking about your dialogue with us at the VLC and ATI. It costs you the phone call, it costs you the passing on slide sets and discussing things, and that's all. So keep going and let that be the judge of whether you want to keep on moving.
Great. And for members that are in the nonprofit or academic communities, is the membership rate the same ongoing annually? There's no difference in membership, yes. Right?
Yeah, and what happens too is we develop revenue. We're nonprofit, and so nothing we do makes profit from this, and we have no shareholders. It's a 501c3 or 3C or whatever organization, and what we charge is only to cover our costs. It costs ATI a certain amount to have the people do what they do, the contracting and so on. Those costs are very reasonable, very commercially reasonable, and that's all we have is to cover those costs. And therefore, what happens is we start to get more and more revenue from the contracts. It drops the dues. I don't know that we're going to get much lower than 500 because, quite frankly, that's kind of don't we often find that there's a certain amount of earnest money needed to say that you're serious about what's going on? And can I use the word kibitzers? By the time you get below that number, it's conceivable we'll end up with. And don't we see this sometimes on the internet that non-serious participants can really jam an organization? We haven't found that. Our membership they're all serious and capable folks. So most likely we're going to be at this level for a while to come, the $500. And it is $500 a year. But on the other hand, when you look at the amount of money that passes through in the contracts, if you have an attractive product, there should be little reluctance on your part to go ahead and join to see if you can get some good contracting from that.
Great.
And I must say, we're not really, we don't pick technologies. We don't say, oh gosh, today is going to be, better fruit juices. We don't do that. Our customer is the one that determines that. We did this. We, the board at the VLC, decided we want to do an eVTOL thing because there's so much beautiful technology and we're not getting questions from the government about it. And for the love of me, I look at what you read about in the civilian press and say, could the government put that to use? It was my idea, for example, if I were a squad leader and someone said to me that I could, if you carry this in your pocket, this communicator in your pocket, and you push a button, and 15 minutes later, a one passenger flying hospital bed lands right next to your squad, you can put your casualty on it, hook them up to machines that take care of them, and it flies immediately back to an aid station. And the aid station could be 10 miles away, but it's also 10 minutes away. What a brilliant idea that is. And it disappears. And I don't think the person who's laying in the bed is going to complain there's no pilot.
Yeah.
That's just one imaginary vehicle. And I have seen nothing that says we're planning this. But I promise you, I know of 20 civilian entities that could do that in a year. They could make that demonstration if somebody only asked them. So that's part of what we're doing here, is to make that happen. And imagine all the other things just like that. And the same idea of the idea of tracking logistics, of doing the ability to take these new machines, and somebody's going to have to do diagnostics and prognostics on them. Someone's going to have to do logistics, parts, supplies. Someone's going to have to train the warfighter to maintain these vehicles. You're the ones who are going to do it out there, and you will provide that service, and our customer base is going to love it.
And that speaks well also to the question we received before about technologies versus services, and how there is really a place for all of that here. So I think that's a great touch
In fact,
point.
I'm a technologist, and I'm the first person to admit that if it doesn't actually work in the warfighter's hands, it's useless. And the highest technology imaginable that doesn't actually provide a practical change to the customer's usage is just garbage. And therefore, the idea of having appropriate logistics change and training and all the other things that count are part of it. And there are folks in our members organizations that do that for a living. And it's not high tech, but it is absolutely essential.
Absolutely. All right, great. Well, I think we have gotten pretty well through our questions today. So I want to ask each of you, what is the single biggest piece of advice you would give to the applicant? Someone interested in applying who really wants to win and wants to get to the pitch. What's something they should absolutely do, consider, not forget? What's your advice to them?
Jennifer, you first.
Sure. So certainly I always tell people, and I think Nick and his consortium are a great example for this particular challenge, submit technologies that are in the realm of the possible. This is what's really cool about working with this group, is they're so open about any technology or service that you have. And as long as it's patent protected, you've identified the TRL, it's dual use technology, definitely try not to siphon yourself and say, this is specifically for the Army, or this is specifically for national security. This is something, as he's spoken about, there's, medical logistics technologies that can easily be crossed over into the DoD. And I also recommend folks to check out the VLC site, look at their technology areas of interest, because that will certainly take some weight, and know about the entirety of the DoD. It's a really quite large and daunting organization, but folks like the VLC make it very user-friendly. They allow you to they give you the resources. This challenge gives you the opportunity to pitch your technology, and this all aligns with what the DoD is doing as a whole. If you look at their national defense strategy and their focus on emerging technologies, these consortia and these challenges are really powerful tools that we hope you leverage and apply for and participate in.
I love it. Practical, realistic solutions. So if you're a dreamer, but you can make it happen, then you are the perfect fit. All right, Nick.
Hey, just adding to that, don't be shy. If you have an idea, I mean, I very well appreciate that there are people who have ideas that are in the corner of this large spectrum. But if that's an important corner, just step forward. Let us know what it is. Let the customer know what it is. Don't be shy.
Absolutely. I think when we're talking about things that are so almost science fiction, we're looking so into the future, we have to define that as technologists, or you have to. I'm not a technologist, but and so that's a really exciting thing and to see. And maybe we will even see parking lot demonstrations this fall. Who knows? We'll see. But thank you to everyone for joining, and thank you to our panelists. We hope that you got your questions answered and you feel prepared and empowered to take on the challenge application form. If you have any questions going forward, you can reach out to me. My email is Laura, Laura, @techconnect.org, and I'll happily pass you to the next person that can answer questions or get you the resources you need for membership or for the application process. And we look forward to seeing what you submit. So have a great afternoon.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.